Okay, I have your top 10 NFL tight ends right now, so I'll be taking into consideration their whole career, but more importantly, their 2023 season. So number 3 or number 10, I'm gonna have Trey McBride. I think Trey McBride really broke out with Kyler Murray near the end of the year. He finished with like over 800 yards, 81 receptions. His reception touchdowns could definitely be better, but receiving wise, Trey McBride is very, very explosive. He was very impactful for that Cardinals offense. Very important for Kyler Murray, and receiving, he definitely looks like the Knicks like Kelce. Blocking, I'm still a little bit skeptical on. He definitely could improve his blocking a little bit, but receiving wise, he's definitely there. And then at number 9, I'm gonna have Dalton Schultz, Mr. Consistent. Like he's always have like over 500 yards, and he had one breakout season of 800 yards a few years ago. With the Texans, he was very good, like usual, a very good blocker, and it can make a big play now and then. He's not gonna put up gaudy, like, great receiving numbers, but he does give you a very good combination of blocking and have being a receiving threat. Like I said, he's always very consistent when coming with receiving, always over 500 receiving yards. So Schultz, because of his consistency, I definitely see him as number 9. At number 8, I'm gonna have Evan Engram. Ever since like going into Doug Peterson's system, he rejuvenated himself. Last year, he had 114 receptions, only 963 yards, so he definitely wasn't um, the most explosive in terms of yards per reception, but he was often used as like a safety valve. His quarterbacks weren't the best, but still 114 receptions, really impressive. He's not the best blocker and he's kind of slim, but his receiving game, he's very, very, very good of a receiver. And he's kind of rejuvenated his career since coming to the Jacksonville Jaguars. He was always a good tight end, but in the Giants day, he had some injuries, but he stayed healthy when playing for the Jaguars. And like I said, he's a very good receiving tight end, very athletic, but just not the best blocker. But it doesn't really matter since he almost had 1,000 yards. At number 7, I'm gonna have Dallas Goedert. I really like Dallas Goedert, but he's very not super athletic, but he's very good at yards after the catch. Very good at breaking tackles. I wish does get more touchdowns. But to me, the biggest like knock on him is his inability to stay healthy. I don't know if he's ever actually played a full season. He's always missing a game due to injury for whatever reason. But when he's on the field, he's a solid blocker and a good receiving tight end. He's a good, well-rounded tight end, and he's always been pretty consistent outside of his injuries. And number 6, I'm gonna have David Njoku, probably the most athletic tight end. He can go up and grab those athletic passes, like those high point passes. He can jump and get them. Also, a very good, oh, solid blocker as well. Last year he had over 800 yards, 81 receptions. Um, 10.9 yards per reception. He's definitely starting to grow, continuing to grow. He had a slow start to his career, but recently has done a lot better. And his injury history the last 2 years have been a lot better after being really bad his first few years. So David Njoku's on the right track. He's only had 2 or 3 very good years out of 7, so I'm still having at 6. But definitely, like I said, probably the most athletic tight end here. At number 5, I'm gonna have Sam Laporta. He broke out his rookie year, if you can say that. With he had 10 reception touchdowns, really good, very good red zone threat, over 850 yards, over 80 receptions. Um, Sam Laporta, I think he had the biggest impact in terms of on the Lions' offense. Like I said, his red zone was really good receiving, good blocker, not great or anything, but good blocker, great receiving. Um, he's only a rookie, so I'm gonna have to see more than one season from him until I put him up. But definitely look trending towards one of the top 10 tight ends. At number 4, I'm gonna have T.J. Hockenson. Like I never knew that T.J. Hockenson was having such a good season before he got injured. In 15 games, he had 95 receptions, 960 yards, 5 receiving touchdowns, and that's with missing 2 games. Hockenson, no question about his receiving game. Very good receiving, both as a check down and as a deeper option. His blocking definitely needs a slight improvement, but I think his receiving game masks his blocking up. So I have Hockenson number 4. But also he's another tight end that has an injury history. So if he gets that strained out, he might go higher. Number 3, I'm gonna have Mark Andrews, another tight end think has starting to fall to injuries a little bit. He hasn't been the most healthy the last 2 years, but when he was healthy, he had very solid stats as well. 45 receptions, 544 yards, 6 reception touchdowns, which is really good, and 12 1-yard yards per reception. Very good target for Lamar. Can be very explosive, very consistent. Blocking, another solid blocker. Mark Andrews, he's been really consistent his last few years as injuries, but when he's on the field, he can be he's definitely top 3, top 2. And number 2, I know I'm going to get a lot of heat for this, but I'm going to have George Kittle. Yes, I know. People really like George Kittle. Like, he had a very good season. I think he led all tight ends in yards with 1,020 yards. 65 reception, but that 15.7 yards per reception shows how explosive George Kittle can be, especially with his yard after catch ability. But to me, the biggest concern about George Kittle is I think his consistency. Like, there are games where he can pop off for 120 yards, and other games where he has like 20 yards. He's probably the best blocker on this list, having a very good run blocking PFF grade. But George Kittle, also another tight end with a slight injury history, but similar to Njoku, the last 2 years he's been really healthy, and when he's on the field, he can be a great blocker and a good receiving tight end. But like I said, his consistency definitely scares me a little bit. Then in number 1, I'm still gonna have Travis Kelce. He did have a little bit down of a 2023 season, but he's still a 93 reception, 985 yards, 5 touchdowns. Definitely, he's had a very good career, almost always having close to 1,000 yards. Kelce, I think to me, what put him above Kittle was his playoff performance this year. When he went to the playoffs, he turned it on into another level. Kelce, I don't think his blocking is horrible like a lot of people say. I think he has solid, like, not a liability of a blocking, but I think his receiving game is probably the best, knowing where to find the holes and the seams, being really smart, being a check. When Mahomes does his crazy things, Kelce knows where to go. But like I said, definitely a little bit of a down season, but really not that bad of a season at all. And for everybody that skipped to the end of the video, here's your top 10 list plus 2 honorable mentions, being Jake Ferguson and Kyle Pitts.